if you're thinking a million miles per hour while you're playing a jazz solo, you're not gonna like what comes out. Because when your mind is racing, what's gonna happen is everything's gonna come out clunky. You're gonna feel like you can't control what's coming out. You just play the same licks over and over again. And the reality is that the really great jazz players, the people who you love to listen to, they know how to slow down their mind when they're soloing so that they can make really good decisions. I think of it like a quarterback, like drop it into the pocket, right? If the quarterback just runs up the gut, they don't have time to do any passes, right? But if they take a couple steps back, they create some space, they can make some decisions. They can find the best opportunities. And in jazz music, what that looks like is making the most musical choices, okay? So, how do we do that? How do we slow down our mind while we are soloing? The first thing you can do is to just leave space. Just don't play, right? You don't have to fill every single note. You don't have to play constant eighth notes or triplets. You can leave a bar of rest. Like, one good way you can do this is by playing a bar and then resting a bar. Right? You can practice doing that and it gives you time to think of each phrase. Imagine how impactful each phrase is going to be when you take a bar to think about it before you play it, right? You can make this even shorter. You can do like a beat of rest at the end of each phrase, right? Like leave a quarter note rest at the end of each phrase. Right? Even just that much gives me way more space than if I was just going to play consistent eighth notes. Right? Like, that's pretty sick, but it's very complex and it starts to add up over time. Like, I don't have time to think, okay? And it's going to start to come out choppy if it's on the edge of my ability. The other thing you can do to start to free up your mind is to use repetition, right? I'm lazy, man. I like to think of one idea and then use that as much as possible, right? If I can play an idea and then play it again, then that means I don't have to think of another idea, right? So a good structure to use for this is something like I like to think of it as like an AAB phrase, right? Where I play something, play it again, and then play something different, right? Like, that is so musical already. It just makes so much sense. Right? And that's kind of the beautiful thing about these ideas that make you think slower, is that they also tend to be the things that are more musical, right? Instead of just like trying to show off and prove ourselves with, oh, I can fill up every single eighth note. Instead, we just leave space. It's more impactful because playing simple is clear, and playing clear is powerful, right? Clarity is powerful. So a lot of the times with these ideas where you play more simple, you leave more space, it's going to be much more effective. Now, the other thing you can do to free up your mind while you're playing is to play beneath your threshold. And to tell you about this one, I kind of want to share a story of when I went to see the great Brad Mehldau play. I was at the Boulder Theater in Colorado. And I was sitting, he was right there. I was in like the front or maybe the second row, right? And I'm watching him play. I'm watching him from the side. And he's playing this amazing solo where on his left hand, he's like playing an ostinato, like do-do-dee, 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 do-do-dee. And then in his right hand, he's playing this beautiful line, 16th notes, you know, superimposing all these different things. It's super free. Right? Oh my gosh, I'm just like, and while I was doing that, I was in jazz school at the time. So I was thinking a lot about coordination and like, you know, how to actually play your instrument. And I was thinking like, how does he have the coordination to play both of those things at once? Like that must have taken so much time to build up. And as soon as I was thinking that, his left hand, I watched it, he lifted it up for a second and then he finished the phrase on his right hand and then he put it back down. Just for a bar, just for 2 bars, something like that. And I was like, why did he do that? What was that all about? And what I realized is that he was doing that because the idea that he was playing on his right hand just barely was beyond the threshold of what he could play and confidently keep the flow of this left hand going. And so what he did is he stopped the flow of the left hand just for a moment, so few moments that you would hardly even notice, and then he put it back in, right? Because his priority was maintaining the flow, the feeling, like the phrasing of the music, these higher level things than just like, oh, can I coordinate this with that, right? That was much more important to him. So he was playing right at the edge of his threshold of what he could play smooth and still get it to come out. And that's just the perfect example of where you want to be when you're improvising, so that your mind isn't like racing, so that your mind slows down. Is you want to be like, if this is the most complex thing that you can play, you want to play like up to here at the most, right? If you're playing here, it's only going to last so long before you mess up, or before it gets chunky, or before you start repeating ideas or something like that, right? So you want to play right beneath your threshold, or honestly, there's so much music that you can make, you know, within your threshold, right? You don't always have to be playing the most complex thing you know. Actually, that's not musical, right? What's musical is making decisions and raising your threshold, getting better at the facility, the coordination, the licks, the vocabulary, the phrasing, just allows you to make decisions. If you can only play here, then you don't have a lot of choices. You only have 2 or 3 things that you can go to. But if your threshold is here, then you can actually make decisions, and then your mind isn't racing, and it's more musical. That's the thing when you slow down your mind, is it's more musical. Now, if you're working on these things, you do have to raise your threshold. You have to get better at your technique, your vocabulary, your phrasing, your tune knowledge, all of these things, so that you can actually do this. If that's something that you're working on, you probably need some help, okay? This is what I help people with. So if you want some more mentorship, guidance, click the links in the description. I've got some free courses there, as well as a way that you can work with me more directly if you're one of those super committed students. So go ahead and check that out in the description. Now, in terms of keeping yourself beneath your threshold, playing simpler so your mind isn't racing, the other thing you can do is play shorter ideas, okay? Long ideas are really cool. They're really complex. They're very fancy. You know, it's fun to play them if you can. You know, if you can play one idea that just keeps going and going. Oh my gosh, so cool, right? And we all want to aspire to that. But if that's all you're doing, you might be right on that edge, okay? So one thing you can do is just play shorter ideas, but put them together kind of like Lego blocks, right? You know, the ideas themselves are small, but switching between them and playing really short ones, it gives you the time to think about putting them together in an interesting way, right? So, right? Just there, this idea. That's a really short idea, 6-stroke roll kind of thing. But because I was playing a shorter idea, I thought about, okay, how can I put it together in an interesting way, right? I started playing it on the snare drum, then the high tom. And then I did kind of like a little bit of a phrasing change where I played it in groups of 3. Right? Right? I could continue that even. Right? You see how, because I'm playing one simple idea, I have more freedom to think about the bigger picture, right? I don't have to think about a whole bunch of ideas. I can just think, oh, repeat, groups of 3, right? I'm not thinking about this idea, that idea. I have to keep this going the same way I am as if I'm playing those longer phrases. I'll tell you right now, those longer phrases, the way that you get good at them is by getting good at shorter phrases, right? So that all you're thinking about is gluing them together. So that's why it's so helpful, whether you're gonna play simple ideas or longer ideas, to think of playing simpler ideas, because it clears up your brain. You have more time to think about stitching them together in a cool way, whether that's super linear or maybe some of the polyrhythmic stuff that I was doing there, right? Now, the 5th way that you can free up your mind when you're soloing so that your mind isn't racing, just play simple, right? This should be obvious at this point. Don't play the fanciest thing that you know. Play something simple and try to make it really beautiful. Like one of my favorite drummers, Matt Wilson, he's such a great example of this. You know, he has all the chops in the world. He can play a bunch of really cool stuff, but he kind of chooses not to. He chooses to play things that are really melodic, really meaningful, right? He has this one solo where he uses this idea, right? It's his solo on We See. You can probably find it on YouTube. But I love it because he takes that one idea and it's so melodic. Ba-da-ba-do-ba-da, ba-da-ba-do-ba-da, and he just develops it. Ba-da-ba-do-ba-da, da-da-ba-do-ba-da, da-ba-ba-do-ba-do-ba-ba-boo-boo, da-ba-ba-do-ba-da-boo, da-ba-ba-da-boo, ba-da-ba-do-ba-da-boo, ba-da-boo-ba-da-boo, ba-da-ba-da-boo, ba-da-ba-do-ba-boo, right? Like, wow, that's so beautiful. And it's not, you know, it's not cheese cha-cha-chas, you know? It's right? It's not a whole bunch of crazy stuff. It's just right? That's at the end of the day, you got to treat jazz like it's an art, not a sport, right? You know, if it was a sport, then yes, play the most complex thing, right? If it was a video game, play the hardest thing you know, learn the hardest tune. But it's not a freaking video game, and it's not a sport. It's not something where you have to prove how much chops you have. You're making art. Say something meaningful, whether that's a simple melody, an open solo where you develop one idea, right? I can do so much with just those two sounds, right? I could play 20 minutes of a solo. I might do that later, honestly. That sounds really fun. But you're taking the emphasis off of how many licks can I play and how can I prove how good I am to what am I trying to say here, right? What am I trying to communicate? And that's why we want to all slow down our minds when we're soloing, right? Why we, like, the reason we think so fast is because there's so much we're juggling. We're thinking of, oh, what does my bandmates think of me? Am I good enough at this? Am I going to get some gigs, right? So many thoughts. When you simplify, when you play more musical, when you play below your threshold, when you use repetition, you take the focus out of all of that and you put it on the most important thing, which is, what am I trying to create right now? What kind of art am I making in the world? It makes you present in the moment, and if you do that, you're going to love the solo that you play. So if you found this video interesting, there's probably another recommended video here that you're going to like. I'll see you on the next one.